Thank you for joining us to talk about the Cyber Incident Management for Ontario Municipalities program. My name is Shannon Devan. I'm the program manager for municipal risk management at LAS. LAS is the business services arm of AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a background on the program itself before I introduce our lovely speakers that we have here today from ISA. So this program came to be back in late 2021, early 2022. A lot of municipalities were having a difficult time getting cyber insurance. Even the application to complete had changed drastically, and it was moving at a rapid pace. I myself was a risk manager for a municipality just north of Toronto and was facing challenges renewing the cyber insurance that I did have. And as I was facing those meetings and those discussions, there was concern about what would happen if I didn't have the coverage. Financially, I was worried. I was like, how are we going to pay for it if something happens? That was one piece of it. But the other piece of it was, who am I going to call? Because the insurance policy that we had in place at the time had incident response included in it. So losing that piece was a worry. So a lot of other risk managers in the province were in the same position. So LAS came together and decided to look into a program that municipalities could access that was independent of insurance. So whether you could get insurance or not, for whatever reason, you would have access to incident response that would help you manage that incident. We set forth on an RFP. So we did go out to RFP in the summer of 2022, and ISA is a successful proponent of that RFP, and they're here to talk about the program that we have built for you. So I am thrilled to turn it over to Francesca from ISA, and she will introduce our other speakers. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Shannon. Hi, everyone. I'm Fran D'Souza from ISA Cybersecurity, working with Shannon at LAS to administrate the program. I am responsible for customers, as some of you I might have already been in touch with. My job is to make sure I direct all customers to the right person on the team. I will pass it over to Gerard to introduce himself.
Sure. Thanks, Francesca. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Gerard Dunphy. I am the offering leader here at ISA Cybersecurity for our detection, response, and recovery services. I am 20 years in cybersecurity, 11 years in public sector, provincial public sector, 3 years at Deloitte in incident response security operations just prior to joining ISA. And my expertise is in incident response, digital forensics, and incident preparedness. Over to you, Al.
Thank you. My name is Al Pereira. I've been at ISA for 12 years, been in cybersecurity for about 25. My job at ISA is to work with the sales team and the customer as a coordinator between the customer and the delivery of our services. My experience over with government, health, and education has been over the full 25 years I've been in the cybersecurity. So I've worked with most of the municipalities that are in the program right now, and some of them that are not in the program. So for those of you who are not familiar or have not really been aware of ISA, ISA is a 33-year-old company that's been in the cybersecurity business for most of that time. It started not in cybersecurity because 33 years ago, cybersecurity was not even a term that existed, if you will. But shortly after, ISA decided to get into the cybersecurity business as we know it today. One of the very few companies in Canada that strictly focuses on cybersecurity. We do nothing else but cybersecurity. Here's some of our services or our services offering. Obviously, we have services right across all areas: advisory, design, implementation, and managed services, including the governance, risk and compliance, assessment and assurance, threat protection and detection and response and recovery. As you can tell, we covered the whole gamut of cybersecurity with expertise in all these areas. We don't really start to put up these types of slides or information up to point out that other folks have had incidents. But in the last little while, and this is why it's important, and internally we've had a discussion about this, data breaches in Canadian businesses has just been on the rise. And all these that you see here are ones that you have heard about and seen about. These are things that always come our way, and what we do is we will endeavor not to get you on this list. Data breaches and the cost to Canadian businesses nearing it's $7 million on average. And people say, well, you know, $7 million is a lot of money. Yes, it is, because if you look at all these folks that are listed here, and when you're talking about the cost of a breach, it's just not the cost that some folks may have to pay to get the data, their data back. It's the cost to your business. It's the cost to the reputation and loss of business as well. Canada ranks 10th globally in data breach count. So we sort of improved a little bit in the last little while, because we were much higher before. The average cost, as I said, was about $7 million. Phishing continues to be the most common type of attack, causing 17% of all breaches, and it becomes the real big issue for folks to protect themselves, because it's right across your whole enterprise. This quote that it's here has been quite well known by everybody, that municipalities, they need to establish a plan to respond to all kinds of crises that's coming your way. It's not a matter if, but it's a matter as to when. Let me get into the offer that Shannon referred to. It's a complete offer. We've customized it for you, and customized it in a way that we have a very slick, very smooth onboarding, which is a questionnaire, if you will, and gives the client the ability to have access to threat intelligence that's available, and in case where we have to work with you to identify and eradicate any of the issues that happen during an incident. There's a dedicated incident response team, a team that's focused in helping LAS, including everyone that is part of the LAS program. We developed one of the things that we will do part of the onboarding is to review what is it that you presently have, and we may also recommend other services like playbooks, but it's one of the things that it's the getting ready or being in a proactive position rather than a reactive position. We also have services that we may have to recommend, like pen testing and other services that may be available for you. One of the other things that it's available is what happens with the retainer hours that are not used. The service scope, there's a preset statement of work that's been approved by the LAS as part of the RFP. The IR onboarding, it's not anything too difficult. We send it out to the client, and the client will then fill that out. You will have access to the team 24/7, 365 through the incident hotline. And part of the RFP was preferred rate, which is much lower than the street, what we call the street level, or if anybody that comes in at ad hoc wanting to be part of the program. The LAS did have a much lower rate than the normal rate. Any assistance to cybersecurity incident response, there's a team that is dedicated to working with any of these incidents, and we'll have some details. I'll go over these details in the next slide. The onboarding is a very, very short form, very easy to fill out. We can help if there's any questions, but it just streamlines the process. So making it easier for anyone who wants to participate and acquire those hours. That onboarding plan is reviewed by Gerard's team to make sure that that they understand what the client has. They may make recommendations immediately. They will know if there are any gaps that they see are that would need to be addressed, and they're reported back. It would not be a showstopper per se, but it would be, they could have some concerns or just recommendations that you would have to take care of. They'll discuss about the document chain of command and key stakeholders, who they are. In other words, if an incident happens, who do you get a hold of first? Who's responsible for what? And those things are predetermined. If you already have not determined those, we'll help you determine those. And then if required, we may even recommend that we do a mock-up incident response to ensure that everything is in place. Now, this type of event would be a paid extra on top of what the retaining hours are. Now, each client would get an emergency hotline with a number. You don't need to guess who is your contact. Once that's reported through an email and then a phone call, Gerard's team will answer that right away, and that number represents who you are, what the next steps are. Here's the SLO. Here's the response type. That's what it is, service level agreement. There's an incident, and that call and the email goes in. Within 15 minutes, someone opens the line. And I want to be very clear about this. They do not start. It's not that you're going to have a technical person on the line immediately. Whoever answers the phone is someone who's technically capable of handling it, but they open the line and they start the process. They begin the initial triage to capture information with the client. Most of, if not pretty close to all of them, are all done remote. Most of this type of work can be done way faster, easier, and more efficient remotely. We seldom go on site. However, here's what if someone needs to be on site, and I'll start this backwards. Somebody needs to be on site, and a GTA will be normally around within the 4 hours. Outside of the GTA, it will be about 8 hours, and then in real remote areas like in Northern Ontario, it would have to be best effort if we need to have someone on site. However, the remote session starts anywhere between 1 to 4 hours, and that's key. So in other words, you will have the full team working with your team in addressing that incident within the first 1 to 4 hours, depending what it is, and that is Canada-wide actually, but within the GTA, we can usually get someone on site if need be. Now, why do we need to go on site, or why don't we need to go on site? That's determined not only by the team, but by the client. And also they look at efficiency. We can be more efficient and attain the same or the better, a faster result if we all stay remote. That's something that's key, that we talk to everyone and let everyone know. Now, if we need to have someone on site, that's not a problem. You're entitled to get someone on site if there needs to be. Here's the price. You can purchase 20 hours, $6,400. Level 2 is 50 hours, $1,600. And level 3, 80 hours, $2,560. Now, for some of those very small municipalities or regions that sometimes they want to pool their time and manage the hours themselves. I've had a couple that they've pooled 2 or 3 municipalities and they've purchased the 80 hours. You can, here's what the price of the ad hoc hours, that's in additional hours that you can purchase at $320 an hour or $150 for project management. So on this slide, what I would like to do is turn it over to Gerard. Gerard will talk about this because that's how the system will work and how the delivery will work for services. So
thanks, Al. Yeah, so you see here, there's the 4 boxes of services, and I think the point that Al was probably trying to make above is is that cyber insurance, it doesn't replace a well-planned incident preparedness plan. And so that's, the reason why we're having this talk today. When you look at the 4 boxes here, the first one is the incident response, preparation and planning. So that's what are the things you can do to prevent or at least defend against an adversary who's attacking your network. And so some of those things include a review of your policies, a review of your network, your IT systems, all of your security defenses. What do they look like? How well can you stand up against an attack? And then look at even a review of your IR plan and we can help in all of those aspects, including helping you build out an IR plan and even testing it for that matter. Under incident triage, that's the monitoring capabilities, monitoring for events 24/7, 365. Typically, you would use a SOC or Security Operation Management Services, which is what we provide. And what we do, obviously, is monitor, we triage alerts, identify incidents, and then classify threats to be able to respond quickly to these types of threats before they cause any damage. On the incident response side, as Al mentioned already, this here is really the incident response piece. In the event that you do have an incident or some sort of cyber crisis, you have a 1-800 number to call us. We respond immediately, to Al's point, either on-site or remote, whichever works best for the client. And beyond that is the post-breach assessment. And so that's where we get into reviewing the incident afterwards to see what happened, how did it happen, how, if the threat actors got in your network, how did they get in your network? Is there vulnerabilities that weren't patched? Was it through a phishing email, which speaks to security awareness training, all that sort of stuff. If it's an insider threat where somebody identified some data was stolen, large pipes of data went out your network, finding out how that happened and that sort of stuff. So that would be more of an insider threat, which is another different type of cyber crisis that we may have.
The retainer hours, it's very simple. If you do not use the services at all during the year, so in other words, you did not have an incident and you have not used any of the hours, you can use 100% of these hours in the next 6 months. You must renew for the following year. So in other words, prior to renewing for the following year, we look at if you have used any of the hours at all. If you have not used any of the hours, they can be used within the first 6 months of the following year's renewal for services that are related to IR. There is a list of services that we will share with you, will be part of this package, and that describes the whole list of services that you can do. As an example, a pen test, creating playbooks, etc. And there's a specific list. You cannot use these hours for RBC role-based consultants or to deploy a firewall or something of that nature, but it has to be IR related. The other thing that you can use is if you are within the during the retainer term, we've made an exception that you can use those hours. There's a bit of an issue, or no, I shouldn't say an issue, but there's a bit of got you with this year that you use those hours during your year for the following 3 services: creation of incident response plan and response policy, tabletop exercises, playbook development. However, if you bought, let's say, 20 hours, you're going to quickly use those 20 hours and you're not going to have any hours left in case there's an incident. So we usually ask you, unless it's a real issue getting some additional funds, either to delay it if it can be delayed to use those, or just buy extra hours in case you do need to do tabletop exercises or create an incident response plan. So that's what this added value, and hence the difference between insurance and this service. That's why we say this is not insurance, because insurance, as you know, you pay for the insurance and you hope not to have a claim, because if you have a claim next year, they'll pay for it, but your insurance goes up, but you don't get anything back if you don't have a claim. So it's the real difference between this program and insurance.
Thank you, Al. That was excellent. I do have a question here. Is the IR service renewed annually, and can it be biannually? Well, is the IR service it's renewed annually? I do know that. I can answer that too. So that's renewed annually. But then the follow-up question was, can it be biannually?
Not every 6 months. We will not sell you every 6 months, but if the client wants to buy, 2 or 3 years in a row, yes, they can. But minimum is 1 year.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
So in other words, you could buy two, instead of buying 1 year, you could buy 2 years, or you can buy 1 year at a time. Okay. The beauty of, and I'll expand on this a little bit. The beauty of having the agreement in place that they can leverage and they don't have to go to market is that next year the price will be the same. Until the expiry of that contract, plus the 2 optional years.
Excellent. Thank you. So without a retainer, what options are available to us as we have incident response in our cyber insurance? So I'm going to take a shot at this, Al, and Gerard, if you want to jump in, please do. So this program was built with the 3 tiers for the retainer hours. We also negotiated, as Al mentioned, the option for the block purchase of hours. So it could be some municipalities coming together to create an incident response that would work for a number of municipalities, or a block of hours for a specific project. If you are able to access cyber insurance and you have incident response in that, I would encourage you to have that conversation with the insurer. What does that look like? Just keeping in mind that then setup is tied to that insurer. It's tied to that policy. This was created to live outside of any insurer. It's not attached to a cyber insurance policy. It's simply retainer options for incident response.
I'll add a comment to that. If you feel comfortable that your insurance company has an IR plan that addresses and meets all your requirements. In other words, you're comfortable that the folks are going to deliver, they are going to be available for the IR, familiar with your environment, that they're capable, they've got all the qualifications, they've done it before, and and they check all the boxes, and you're totally happy with it. But then if you want a company to come in, like you want us to come in and do an IR readiness assessment and ensure that your program will meet the readiness that you should have. So in other words, being proactive, and we can do that. And we've done that with some municipalities that said, hey, for 2 reasons. I already have something that I paid, and it's already paid, and I don't want to pay for the same thing with someone else. However, I want to take advantage of having you guys come in and do an assessment. That would not give you access to the IR hours. So in other words, if you called us and say, hey, we have an incident and our insurance people are busy or whatever, can you come in? You would have to come in outside of this program, and the cost is a lot higher. And the reason for that is we have a team that's ready to address the number of customers that we have. As we add more customers, the team expands, and hence why you need to pay ahead of time. Okay. Now, if you don't use it, then we hope you repurpose those hours for you to get more resilient and be more ready. If something happens, you're not running around finding out, where do I find this, or how do I do that? You've got a little more readiness, so you're able to deal with an incident and arrest it and stay in business fairly quickly. Gerard, anything that you want to add? I'm sure you can add some more to this.
You said it well, Al, and I think maybe just to summarize, you have insurance cyber insurance with your insurer, it's best to find out from them first, in the event of an incident, do you have 1-800 number that we should be called? So you get your incident responder people lined up, so that ties into your playbook, so that everybody in your organization is going to be tied into that, knows exactly what they need to do and who to call. And to Al's point, beyond that, we can come in and do a variety of different services for you to help prepare to defend against an incident. And you'll notice on the slide that we had that showed the long list of Canadian businesses that are under attack. It's pretty clear in this industry now. Municipalities are definitely under attack without a doubt. We've seen it time and time again. And so it's really, I wanted to stress that it's no longer a matter of if, it really is a matter of when. We need everybody to really be thinking along those lines. And so with that in mind, you really needed to be thinking about what can you do to prevent that type of incident? How can you reduce your vulnerability in the event that threat actors come knocking at your door? Because they're going to look for the lowest hanging fruit way in. They're going to be looking through phishing attacks. They're going to be scanning your network environments for vulnerabilities that they can exploit. That's how they get in. And if they find those, they're going to continue to poke holes to see if they can get all the way through. Once they get in, they're usually silent. No alarms are triggered off, so they get in there, and then they'll start attacking accounts internally, especially privileged accounts, and they'll do that usually through brute forcing. And then they'll elevate those privileges to those accounts, and then they'll move laterally in your network. They'll do some reconnaissance to map your network out. They'll find out where your crown jewels are, or your sensitive data is, or whatever it is that they're looking for. They will then take strategy to exfiltrate that data out the door. This happens, it used to be months to get that level or that deep into your network. Now it's literally weeks, sometimes even days. They've gotten that good. These are sophisticated, very well-organized threat actors that are doing these breaches. And when you look back at the city of Hamilton, they're still struggling to get completely back on par. I believe the city of Toronto's public library system, they're not 100% done up yet. When you look at the 5 hospitals in Southwestern Ontario, they've had to completely rebuild their infrastructures in IT just to recover. These are really, really serious and very costly events that'll occur if they come knocking at your door. So you really need to think about what are the things that we can do. And there are a lot of things that people can actually do to reduce that threshold. When those threat actors come knocking, if there's no low hanging fruit, they're usually going to move on to the lower hanging fruit because they want to get in there. They want to make that monetary gain by, the ransomware attacks or whatever it is that they're going to steal and hold for ransom. So think about those sorts of things, and that's services that we can come in and provide to you to really increase your defense in-depth strategy to protect you against these types of attacks.
Okay, thank you, Gerard.
Shannon, if I may just add one more thing to that, there's another difference between, and I'm not necessarily picking on insurance, because insurance, they do cover a very vital protection point for customers. If you buy a sort of technology that you say, I'm going to buy this and I'm just going to sit there and wait until something happens and then see if it works. That's what insurance is for. Insurance, you buy a premium and then you hope that nothing happens, and then that's it. Now, even insurance companies, they go and they say, hey, if you take a defensive driving course, we'll lower your premiums. That's a bit of a way of being proactive. In our industry, the way our philosophy is, and when I say ours, it's ISA's philosophy, not only ISA's, but many different companies in our industry, but particularly the ones like us who do nothing else but cybersecurity, is our approach is not to sell you ours and say, okay, when it happens, we're the fire people, we're the firemen, we'll show up and put out the fire. No, our approach is to say to you, let's work together and get you in a more proactive, resilient position. Because as Gerard said, and I've been saying it, and you all know this, it's not a matter if, it's when. Now, when it happens, if you've done all these things and you've got the playbooks and you've practice them and you do the scanning and you've got, you know, you do patching and all these regular things, as I call brushing your teeth every day, if you will, or twice a day, you will be able to overcome that situation in a much more efficient manner, stay in business most of the time, and a lot of cases, not even pay the ransom and be able to, you know, just continue and minimize your costs of an attack. And that's really the approach that you should have. And that's the approach that we work with you, hence why the hours that you buy can be repurposed to directly get you into a much more proactive defensive position.
Thank you, Al. Al, I have another question for you here. It says, how many hours on average would be needed solely to review circumstances and prepare an IR plan? Best guess.
I'm going to turn that over to Gerard. That he's better equipped to answer that.
Best guess. That's a good one. I appreciate the question, Brian. I can say that all depends. Typically, what we do is we will come together, meet with your executive team and the people that are involved in the, you know, the governance and risk and compliance, and look to see where you are now. Do you have a plan? Is it out of date? Do you not even have a plan? You know, that sort of stuff. And we would go from there. If it's to build a plan straight out, there's an assessment, you know, phase of it where there's questions around you know, the governance and compliance and all those sorts of things. Maybe some technical questions as well. How you're structured? What does your infrastructure look like? Are you in cloud, hybrid, on-prem? You know, those sorts of things. But then looking at your disaster recovery plans, your BCP, if you have those, and tying that all together, and then developing the plan for you, preparing it for you, and then coming back with you and working through that initial draft to be able to make sure that we're, you know, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and customizing it according to your organization. As far as time, how many hours? It's a loaded question. If I could answer it that way, I would say for sure it's weeks of an engagement. You know, our folks are dedicated to that. We have folks, you know, that specifically deal with developing incident response plans, deal specifically in governance and risk management. I wouldn't be able to give you a stronger answer to that, but best guess, Brian, I would say it definitely would be a few weeks. You're probably talking maybe even upwards of 4 weeks, give or take.
And Gerard, that varies where the customer is at with that process themselves. If they have, you know, the more they have, the easier and the less expensive it'll be. Am I not correct?
You are correct. Yes, 100%.
If a client already has a lot of this in place and they want, and it's up to date to just want to review, it's different than to say, hey, you know, we're going to have to, you know, restructure, rip apart, or do a lot of work on a playbook, if you will. The playbook just needs to be slightly updated versus completely redone. Obviously, the times are different.
Yeah,
it all varies. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And to that point, yeah, to that point, you could be even looking at just a few weeks if a lot of the things are up to date and that sort of stuff, but it's just maybe a little outdated, and you just need that regrooming of it. I could see that being, you know, a matter of just a few weeks, yeah. Maybe even a week, depending.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to thank Al and Gerard and Fran from ISA for joining us today to go over this program. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to check the LAS website. It has some information about the program. You can reach out to me at any time, and I'm happy to set up any meetings. Also wanted to update the group because we were speaking about cyber insurance earlier, and it's such a fast moving thing. Back when I started in municipal insurance, cyber insurance itself wasn't even a policy. And when I was working for a public sector brokerage back in 2016, people weren't buying it, and it had, you know, robust coverage and some pretty high limits with lower premiums than we're seeing today. And then as we came into the pandemic and cyber attacks really took off, we started to see a real shift in that and in those policies. And it remains to be seen what that's going to look like moving forward. We had seen signs of a stabilization of cyber insurance. And when I say that, I mean it's the premiums really went up and your deductibles went up. I know when I was placing it, my premium increase was upwards of 750%. It was enough that every time the report went up to senior and the next senior level, it came back, are you sure this is right? Yeah. It was stabilizing out, and then we've had the incidents that we have had that we've talked about through late 2023 and early 2024. So LAS is still working on looking at alternatives to cyber insurance. So we're looking at other cyber risk entities. So stay tuned for that. If you want to talk about that, please don't hesitate to reach out. But for today, I'm just really thrilled to present to you the program that we have built here that you can take advantage of. I'd like to thank Fran and Gerard and Al for all of their good information, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.